I used to do that. And then when I saw these black women, I realized, oh my God, I could do poetry. Because what they were doing is they were just like standing there, and they had a podium, and they had the words. They weren't really even looking at them. They were looking at the camera. And it was, and their bodies would move as they did, you know, poem, and it was like a song. I thought, that is so beautiful. So I can't sing, but I can write. So maybe I could do what they do. And that was the beginning, really, when I understood really what a poem could be. And it wasn't just about something on the paper. So anyway, right after that, I immediately went into the bedroom. And I wrote this poem called, which I finally called In Admiration of Black Style. And it came out just like that. That's what it was. I am cool. I have got to be cool. I have got to maintain my cool in the face of all adversities, otherwise I'll be gone. I'll be dead and gone. I'll be dead and gone and swept so low that some won't never show above my head again. Oh, no. Because I'm just one woman. I'm just one poor woman. I'm just one poor, simple woman, trying to hold on to a dream of making each day count for something more than the one that went before, and it ain't easy. It sure as hell ain't easy. But I keep trying. And sometimes my head is high like a kite. My back is straight. I am walking tall and proud. My mind's floating in a sea of possibilities, and I feel good. Oh, yes, do I feel good? And there ain't no one living or passing on ever going to put me down. Because I'm cool. I've got to be cool. I have got to maintain my cool in the face of all adversities, otherwise I'll be hurting. I'll be sad and hurting. And I ain't never going to make it no-how. I love doing that. That was fun. I told Mike and my husband, we were married at the time, he said, oh, that's really, you sound just like those women. Well, again, that was my intention. The only problem, of course, that I wasn't black. So I really couldn't go on writing there. As much as I found the music. So then the goal was, how do I get the, my music? And of course from there, after I stopped singing songs, I started writing these poems where I could, I could imagine, an audience I would perform for. Meanwhile, I was living all alone. It was just me and Robin every day. So the next thing that came up really soon after, a few days later, is something called Notes from the Nursery. And this felt closer to my own music, which might have been something of the streets where I was growing up. This is Notes from the Nursery. My first name's Mama, so now I'm special. One night, I had an impulse to be Mama, so now I'm very special. And all the days sashaying make me dizzy once in a while, thank God for TV sets and cigarettes. But what's so special about dying of lung cancer? This child's life is knitted up in mine, and the tapestry grows fuller while the wool gets thinner, and my feelings seeming flimsier, till her laughter strikes the proper chord once more, and I am Mama. And she tells me that she loves me. I'm singing the Goodbye Guilty Blues again to the tune of But I'm Only Human, with the I Have Rights 2 waltz playing in the background, and I know that it's all true. But tell that to the knot that twists my belly too many times. My child means everything to me. But still, I order her to the TV set so I can puff another cigarette in peaceful contemplation on the essence of the universe for the 100th time today. What night was it we fell asleep, wrapped up in each other's arms, humming lullabies? And I dreamt TV died of lung cancer, and I gave up smoking.
That's superb.
So these were like, performance poems, and so, as I started going out and doing them, eventually I ended up going to college and meeting women. It was the beginning of the feminist movement. Robin was in a daycare center. And so I got to make friends, And so we would get together, and I would do poems, and they would do poems, and I started doing a feminist festival. And that was really the beginning of my taking myself seriously as a poet. It was basically performance stuff. And there's this one piece that I'll do now, which was sort of a culmination of that whole performance beginning performance era. It's called Mosadi, which a friend of mine told me was an African, a West African word that meant woman, and also meant life. Mm-hmm. See how she stretches her fingers to the sun. She is a green grass dancer, Mosadi, body swelling, muscle rivers running. She is a runner trying for passage beyond the sky. She races and weeps in celebration each spring when she takes as her lover the earth. For the autumn, she chants hours to the wind. Mosadi means woman, she thunders, and she stretches her fingers to the sun. She's a green grass dancer, Mosadi, body swelling, muscle rivers running. Ain't no one can boogie like Mosadi. She is smooth. She is cool. She maintains control of every motion going down. She is a master of the boogie. Mosadi means woman. She laughs deep and she orders another drink. I am the keeper of the power. See what I mean? I can do anything. I got no sympathy for people moaning and groaning in their misery. They're going to be like me. She laughs. She grabs a partner for the dance. Ain't no one can boogie like Mosadi. When hard times hit Mosadi, she pretended not to notice. Her legs gone wooden, her motions graceless. The sun, like a cold yellow patch in the sky waiting to crush her in a sandwich between sky and earth. She pretends to laugh when people say Mosadi's dance is not what it used to be. Mosadi means woman, she hums, remembering the sound of drums, no longer pounding. Mosadi has moved to the sea this summer. She roams deserted beaches, collecting ocean artifacts, studying the eating habits of ocean birds. She watches for changes and wonders at her anguish. Each sunset, she climbs to the highest dune and presses her head down to the sands. Mosadi is afraid. She prays and waits through the night. She would like to understand the meaning of the moon. Mosadi is learning to play the flute. Friends notice her voice a little softer. She moves a little slower, speaks less. Sadness in her eyes. She boogies even better than before. Mosadi means woman. She laughs deep, and she orders another drink. We are the sharers in the power. And the moon is quietly inevitable. See how she stretches her fingers to the sun. She is a green grass dancer, Mosadi, body swelling, muscle rivers running. See how she settles palms on the earth. She is a moonlight disciple, listening. Mosadi means woman. She whispers, and she stretches her fingers to the sun.
When did you make that one? Because I've heard it a long time.
Yeah, I would do it off and on in the Grail. That's a thing that people ask for.
Yeah.
You know, like there's, oh, you do Mosadi, and I got kind of sick of it for a while, but I haven't done readings.
Yeah.
It's been a while now, so
It's really neat.
I did that probably in the mid-70s.
So it's all 70s.
And then at that point, I was, I'd be out doing readings with somebody. I heard someone said, it was reported back to me that somebody at one of the readings says, "Oh, Sharon, she does good shtick."
She does
Shtick. She does good shtick, which meant that she wasn't really doing poetry. She was doing shtick.
Ja, wat shtick.
Shtick. You want to explain what shtick is? Do you know what shtick is?
I don't know English word. It's stuff.
Show.
It's more than show. It's show with all kinds of things added into it.
But it's trivial. It's just like entertainment. Something for entertainment.
Not to take too seriously.
Not to take too seriously. Shtick. And it's like a routine. Everyone's got this shtick.
Right. But I would take that seriously. So
You take shtick seriously?
No, what you've been doing.
Well, this was a girl, a woman who, we were all young at that time. This is a woman who, she was studying. She was, getting her MFA,
MFA.
Master of Fine Arts in Poetry. So I was doing shtick. So that hit me, huh? Want me to do some more shtick? But actually, that set me back for a moment, because the thing is, I never studied poetry, and I never finished college, because once, I left my husband, I had my daughter, I was on welfare for a while and going to college. But once I discovered that I really was serious about poetry, I really couldn't continue in college. I just had to do poetry. And so I was on welfare, and they started to catch up with me after a couple of years because Mike was still making payments. He wasn't supposed to do that. I was just really supposed to be poverty-stricken. Anyways, I knew I had to get off welfare. So, I never finished college. And I got a job, and I was a single mother. So I took this comment kind of seriously. It sort of set me back from what's like, well, I never really did study. I guess I'm not a real poet.
There's a certain type of academic that forgets that Shakespeare wrote for the groundlings.
Well, they say, wherever you were, you could get into him, You had your way in no matter what. Yes, but he was the genius. But
Well, for me, it makes you more of a poet that you didn't study.
well, I discovered that later.
Right.
There's a way in which I discovered that the ways in which people have studied and made poetry today really are so in isolation.
Is there no category for that type of poetry?
What I was doing is performance poetry. Also at that point, it was a movement that was beginning. And I was part of that movement without realizing I was part of a movement. I was just resonating with what I had seen on TV that night and creating out of that. And getting my own shtick, my own routine going, but it felt right for me. But it was at that point I started thinking, well, maybe I should study. And that set you back a few years. So I started reading other poets. That was the first step. Because, I was a welfare mother and had to, just get by. So I started reading other poets. And remember I told you yesterday, there was a point where I'd been writing and I didn't really care about poetry, except my own or what I was hearing from other people. And I said, well, maybe I should start reading them, and I did. And I started to understand a little bit the difference between a performance poem and a poem for the paper. There's a difference. And, I'm going to do some paper poems, or show that transition. But there is some, I began to understand the difference. So that a poem like Masadi is a performance poem. And then I wrote another thing called Poem for Survival, which is really about the same thing, but it's done in another way. And it still works in performance, but it also works on the paper. Masadi's on paper, but it's not as interesting as it is in performance, as you can imagine. But this poem, I'm going to do Poem for Survival, I think it works in performance, but it also works for the paper too. And it's not as much fun as Masadi, which is a real requirement for paper poetry. It really shouldn't be so much fun. It really shouldn't be serious.
Was performance poetry called performance poetry while it was happening, or only much later after?
No, it was as it was developing.
As it was
So that the people you started hearing, they call themselves so-and-so is a performance poet, which was some kind of state. And they concentrated less on getting published and more on being with groups of people and just doing it.
like the stand-up comic.
But they were performance poets, stand-up poet. All right. So I'm going to do Poem for Survival now, and that, and you'll see it's pretty much the same thing as Masadi, but it's in another way.
You could be a Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie.
Okay, Poem for Survival. I filled in 3 movements. You notice Masadi had 10 movements too, but I didn't call them, they're just sections. Okay, first movement. Whoever told you you were meant, as if you were never meant to rise in the morning, slide in to witness the black hole space where a star has died, where a star has burned itself out, hovering your prairie. Whoever told you you were meant to survive the night you screamed from your bed, and there was no one to hear you, and you knew there was no one to hear you, great but mute black space folding in on you. One afternoon, when the sun turned to silver, silver like ice, it grew eyes that could grin, grinning deeper, the deeper you cried to the earth, watching silently by. When they thread heaven's rosette through the music, now not even dancing will heal you. And you are a stomach waking to sickness, wishing yourself older, needing less time. Whoever told you you were meant to survive? Second movement. Nobody told me to leave this place. I knew when it was time. There were the signs, the leaves shrinking at the windowsill, browning at the stalk more and more till folded, the plant toppled dead, and the cat I attacked. I gripped the cat's throat. I pounded its head in a drummer's frenzy, beating the floor. If only it had been nice to me. If only it had been nice to me. And when the walls began to move and the earth turned into water I had to walk upon, I prayed. For 7 times 7 sevens I prayed, and a voice said, nothing will survive here. Nothing will thrive in this place. So for 7 times 7 more sevens, I waited, wetting the bed with my bad dreams. I waited for a voice, for a vision, for a friend to take me in her hands, to save me. I waited. I waited. I waited. I waited. Nobody told me to leave this place. I knew when it was time. It was simple and quiet. I said, I'd rather not die yet. I'd rather not die yet. I'd rather not die yet. And I was gone, not knowing when I had left. Third movement. Tell your people not to wait for me. Tell them I've grown tired. I am no longer available. Say that I am hacking out my way back home again. Tell your people I've gone back to the sea. Not knowing what to expect, I found sea things. Seashells, fish bones, rocks slick with color when wet, sea foam marking a white line between wet and dry, and the wind twirls it through a white suds glide across the sands. And Montauk has a winter night sky calling, more stars than I'd ever known before calling. I heard them calling down on me. We people are not only dangerous, we are presumptuous. Tell your people I am trying to be less presumptuous. Tell them I am learning to be less dangerous. I take nothing for granted. Not the smell of the sea of a lover, my body moving, not this planet moving as I have always counted on it moving, not even the dream I wake from screaming, Mommy, listen. I hear me coming undone. Should anyone ask for me, you tell them you have been in the presence of a woman becoming undone, that she trembles with knowing no answer, that she walks softly where once she would try to possess. She listens at windows, grows white with waiting, and she settles for nothing, not even her dreams.
That sounds like right out of post-traumatic stress syndrome. I didn't mean that as a joke. I meant that perfectly seriously.
I don't know.
Because I've known some Vietnam veterans with it, and it sounds like right out of there.
Here's a paper poem. It's published in one of these top journals in the country called Poetry. Speaking of, called Meditation. Of course we're crazy. It's in the eyes. A certain gesture of the hand as if to ward off evil. No one is safe. Consider the city. But better, consider the family. And the way a familiar face can turn on you and be ugly. And then turn back to normal. I remember last summer. How normal. The fishing boats in by 5 in the evening. We were dressed in white linen, and our skin smelled salty and burnt. It was then that I lifted the brim of your hat, and I kissed you. I haven't moved for days. This room has 9 windows. The blinds are raised, so there's light. And I can see bare branches, hundreds in a bare network, and the sky changes by the hour. That is actually a poem. It came out of an exercise in a workshop, and the exercise was to create a poem of 3 stanzas that were interchangeable, so that you could read it whichever stanza. It didn't matter which stanza you read first.
So do you ever change the order of the stanza?
No, but I sometimes when I do a writing workshop, I bring it in cut up, and I ask the people in the workshop to, because I'm going to give them the same exercise, I ask them to like set it up, and they, and very often they don't set it up the way I did, or the way I finally set it up based upon when I brought it to the workshop. The people in the workshop told me what order to put the stanzas in, and I listened to them.
And then you tell them that is a kind of a poem, that
Yeah.
indeed that is.
And I give them the exercise. Now you go create a poem with 3 stanzas, interchangeable stanzas. And then something seems to hold it together.
What does hold it together? And so I see.
Yeah, what hold it together?
What does hold it together? I see the fishing boats. I see the coming in at 5. I see the light coming into the room with the 9 windows, and what holds it together? I would have to listen to it again, and I don't know whether there's some, what.
The thing about, and calling it meditation also, the thing about a meditation is that it's not, a meditation is where thoughts come and thoughts go. Thoughts come and thoughts go. So that,
it is not logic.
The title is a
isn't it?
meditation,
Mm-hmm.
and that somehow they're related, but not necessarily,
In a certain order.
Yeah.
It's not a story. It's not an event. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if these were being written before I met the Grail, and
Even this one? Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then when I met the Grail, I read a very long series of poems called Community Life, which I'd like to do. I'd like to do it later. And then other kinds of poems began to, most of the poems at that time, even though they were stuff written for the paper, and they were pretty much about, alienation or separation of one kind, trying to work with that.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to calm some kind of reconciliation of that, which in fact community life does do. In fact, one of the poems themselves is called The Separation. And this is now, like we were talking yesterday about images. A lot of these came out of beginning to follow through images, and it wasn't like, and they were becoming fictions. They weren't even like necessarily true about me in terms of the details. But they were fictions that were coming out of following through on an image. But yet what was true was the feeling. There was some underlying truth which was beyond any kind of real details about my life. So this is one of those fictions. It's called The Separation. As kind as you've been, I keep all of you away. I like that, as I love you from across the room. Your shadow is a long slip across the marble mantelpiece. You do your business. This has nothing to do with sex. I was a man once, a Roman gentleman, a senator. I was not famous, but respected. And there was a woman I loved with long, dark hair. She fled from me through a colonnade. I can't say why. It was a time of great corruption, when I died in middle age, disappointed. For it seemed then we were a puny race, and I was separate. Look at my shoulders, how stiff I hold them. I'm a good soldier. I keep watch well into the night, distinguishing between animals and the enemy. And all the stories you've ever heard are true. It is lonely at the front. These are just, for some reason, these images were grabbing me. I was just going with them and creating a little story. But there's a truth in there that's true about me. And very often poetry does do that. You know, there's a point when we're writing poems, and you almost know that too, where sometimes there's a fiction. It seems to be a fiction, but it's not more true than, than what would be the truth.
If it's an inner truth, a deeper truth that is actually the real truth, and it's irrelevant whether the external circumstances, facts are true or not. Because that inner thing is true.
Listen to this. It's called Advent. In this, the last part of winter, in the snow still shining, beaten in with all our footsteps that keep on repeating, and each breath is white and light, one more letting go that hovers like a shadow about to be entered. We're here now, and around us the trees are bones in the wind, wailing, ice snapping. It's the world coming apart in the arms of some dark mother. Rock me. Tell me tales of India, songs of the swollen-bellied tribe in Uganda, rumors of torture among the mountain people, how Jerusalem turns golden beneath the desert sun. Sing of hushed gatherings, guerrillas slipping through the Nicaraguan night, and a fire burning in the eyes, in America even. There are still ears pressed to the ground, imagining the sound of after the earth stops splitting. On the flatlands. This could be forever, finally. Field after field, wheat and a dance, and the wind weaves in a long rush, gold. Waves of it, that soft hiss. From here to the distant edge, where it looks like you can fall off the world, but you don't. We know that. Breathe, it's morning. The sky is on every side of us, far away, out there, clinging to the ground. There was a series of monologues that I did at one, but I'm not going to do it because it's 25 after 5. So I think I'll just close with community life, because I think because we're the Grail, and this is the Grail.
Not a shorty.
I've got community life, and it's a longie. So I'm just going to do it, and because it's us, and it's in this book, which was this anthology, which was published recently. I wrote this during the first year when I was up in Cornwall, back in 1977. It's in a number of sections. So, community life. Each has her own berth, one bureau. No smoking, no mirrors. No, one mirror. A sliver at the foot of the second floor hall where I bow each morning before it, that crap thing. Suck in belly, pat bottom, adjust collar, stretch as in dance and exercise. Me in pieces, face locked into its face pose. No pretense, no give. The day begins and I am filled with good intentions. Light strikes the bare wood Light strikes the bare wood floors. The haze is rising. Stairs creak under the weight of us going down to breakfast. I am sure to not go out of turn, to keep our line even, hold the fork back, not taking more than a fair share. Being new here, I imitate the rest of them. Settle into their ways. Small talk. An August breeze seeps in. One by one they finish and are gone. Screen doors slamming. A beat at each exit. My heart pounds. I scrape their plates. Scavenge for scraps left behind. The property is green and lush in hills just west of the Hudson. Fields, cabins, slopes, and wild fruit, a bench from which the whole of our land is visible. I have not yet tired of the view nor intricacies of those who live within it, though my heart goes back to the city and I am eager for mail. Poised at the head of the driveway, I am, as they say, among strangers here, forgetting the dark part of what's past, the underbelly of the familiar. Our hermit, the pot, and that was the invention, right? We make fictions. There was a little, what became the Hermitage was once a pottery shed. Our hermit, the potter, has a shed in the backwoods. Primitive and lean, she hauls water, won't talk. Her voice is written. Bring clay Thursday morning and Monday afternoon. I do it. The wheel is turning. Her hands ride the mound. I am fixed for a while. In this dust, something holds. The bareness she goes on. Going unnoticed at the outside wall, I smell must in the wood. Almost collapsed. Sun like a devil across my back, bent into digging. Potatoes emerging 3 or 4 to a hole. Oh, come now, you can do better. I had to straighten up, had to lean against the pitchfork. Sunstruck, ground tipping out from under. I saw, down by the corn in neat rows, so many of us fading into stalks as if the body were lost, then present in the next person. There was a ringing all around. I had to stop. At night, the house dog roams after woodchucks, breaks necks with a fast bite, delivers them at the door. He howls to be let in. It's always the same. Dog pantings. Good night. Too many crickets. The faucet. I'm clean. My shadow is doubling beyond the oil lamp. Moths beat blindly at the screen. Groan. Someone's bad dream getting tossed off. Off. The wheeze. Their breathing is a comfort. Already it's like the fall. Cool. We pick and preserve what's done, what can rot. It's easy reaping, and when one has come who makes me laugh. She's young yet, lifts rocks, vats, throws back her scarf, axes wood, firewood. There's a lightness and it extends. Love here in the fields. Canada geese honking down. The sky is thick at the rim. Crimson, the foliage thins. We're pulling corn stalks out by the roots and stacking them. I'm making friends, recognize kindnesses, but something more is required of me. I can see it in the distance, my uneasiness at their approach, welcome, their casual stance before the fat, crisp stacks, afraid even now as a torch is put to our gatherings, and my arms fold, and each long leaf hurries toward its stalk in the burning. We close in. It's a simple service. Her body, wrapped in a white shroud, is prayed over. Hymns, hands clasped. 4 stand-up candles mark the corners of her coffin. I was the one who found her dead. It was as I've told them. No sign of pain, no clutching at the sheets. She was gray. The look, the expression was odd and not her own. Bare, bare. It's all sticks, and on the ground what's fallen. Sick with fever, I'm propped on pillows and removed, the season like a film before me. Rain, pods, hundreds splitting from the limbs of the locusts. Nothing is left. I am skin, empty, hot, they say. So hot when they visit and whisper of me in the doorway. There's a cool hand and a figure above. I lie still for her. I drink what she brings. Smoke lifting in spirals from the cup. I woke early, dressed, quietly left and went in darkness to the ridge east. Yes, I was commanded, like a child. Like a child. And when the bell sounded attention, I used to straighten, hands fixed on the edge of my desk, patient. There was a sense of things staying, but I was taken year by year, now through dry leaves, up this slope, black, light. The sky has a line, is divided. Come to me, be mine.